My mother looked me in the eye and said, "Pack your bags, you're marrying him tomorrow." I thought my life was over. Little did I know, the billionaire she was selling me to had been searching for me for 20 years. The truth would shatter everything I believed about my past. You know that feeling when someone you trust completely shatters your world in a single moment? When the person who's supposed to love you unconditionally looks at you like you're nothing more than a dollar sign. I lived through that nightmare, and I'm about to share every painful, shocking detail with you. Before we dive into this story, I need you to do something for me. If you've ever felt abandoned, betrayed, or used by someone who should have protected you, hit that like button right now. This isn't just another story about family drama. This is about how greed can turn a mother into a monster, and how sometimes justice comes from the most unexpected places. And listen, stories like mine don't get told often because they're too painful, too raw, too real. So make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because I promise you've never heard anything like what I'm about to tell you. The twists in this story will leave you questioning everything you think you know about family, loyalty, and love. I'm 22 years old, and until 3 days ago, I thought my mother loved me. I thought the woman who raised me alone, who worked double shifts and scraped together every penny for my education, actually cared about my happiness. God, I was so naive. Picture this. I'm sitting at our tiny kitchen table, surrounded by overdue bills and collection notices, when my mother, Victoria, walks in with this strange smile on her face. Not a happy smile. Something colder, more calculating. She sits down across from me and says the words that would haunt me forever. "Pack your bags, Lily. You're getting married tomorrow." My blood turned to ice. Married? I'd never even had a serious boyfriend, let alone someone I wanted to spend my life with. When I asked her what she was talking about, she casually mentioned a name I'd never heard before: Ethan Blackwood. A billionaire, apparently. Someone who could solve all our problems with a single check. That's when the truth started pouring out like poison from a broken bottle. My mother had been gambling again, not just the small-time stuff I knew about, but high-stakes games with dangerous people. She owed $500,000 to men who didn't accept "I'm sorry" as payment. And instead of coming to me, instead of asking for help or finding another solution, she decided to sell me. Yes, you heard that right. Sell me. Like I was some kind of commodity, some asset she could trade away to clean up her mess. She had the audacity to sit there and tell me I should be grateful. Rich men need wives. Poor girls need security, she said, like she was doing me some kind of favor, like she wasn't destroying my entire future with her selfishness. The worst part? She'd been planning this for months, while I was working part-time jobs and dreaming about college. While I was saving every dollar I could to help us get ahead, she was secretly negotiating my life away. The contract was already signed, my marriage in exchange for debt forgiveness, plus $1 million. $1 million for her daughter's freedom. I tried to run. Of course I tried to run. But when I went looking for my ID, my birth certificate, my passport, everything was gone. She'd hidden them all, trapped me in our apartment like a prisoner waiting for auction day. The woman who used to read me bedtime stories had become my jailer, and there wasn't a single thing I could do about it. As I sat there that night, staring at the ceiling and listening to her make phone calls about finalizing arrangements, I realized something terrible. I didn't know my mother at all. The woman I'd loved and trusted my entire life was capable of betraying me in the most fundamental way possible. She was willing to trade my happiness, my dreams, my entire future, all for money. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of discovering how deep her lies really went. The next morning came too fast. Victoria dragged me to this massive mansion that looked like something out of a movie. All marble columns and perfectly manicured gardens. I was expecting to meet some creepy old man who collected young wives like trophies. Instead, the door opened to reveal someone completely different. Ethan Blackwood was maybe 45, tall, with kind eyes that seemed to see right through me. But here's the thing that made my heart stop. The first words out of his mouth weren't about marriage or contracts or what he expected from me. He looked at me with this strange expression and said, "You have your father's eyes." My father's eyes. I'd never known my father. Victoria always told me he was some deadbeat who ran off before I was born. But this billionaire stranger was talking about him like they'd been close friends. The confusion must have shown on my face because Ethan's expression softened even more. "I'm not interested in marrying you, Lily," he said gently. "I've been looking for you for 20 years. 20 years? I was only 22. That meant he'd been searching for Timmy since I was a toddler. None of this made sense. Why would a billionaire be looking for some poor girl from the wrong side of town? That's when he pulled out an old photograph that made my world tilt on its axis. The picture showed Ethan, maybe 20 years younger, standing next to a man who looked exactly like me. If I'd been born male, same dark hair, same green eyes, same stubborn chin. "This is David Chen," Ethan said quietly. "Your father, my best friend." My legs nearly gave out. My father wasn't some deadbeat. He was real. He had a name. And apparently, he'd been important enough for a billionaire to call him his best friend. But if that was true, then why had I grown up poor? Why had Victoria and I struggled for every dollar? Ethan's next words hit me like a freight train. "When David died in that car accident, he left you everything. $50 million, Lily. You're not poor. You never were poor. Your mother has been lying to you your entire life. $50 million. I was rich. I had always been rich. And my mother, the woman who'd raised me in poverty, who'd made me feel grateful for hand-me-down clothes and expired food, she'd known this whole time." The truth kept getting worse. Ethan explained that Victoria had been my trustee, legally responsible for managing my inheritance until my 21st birthday. She was supposed to tell me everything when I turned 21 last year. Instead, she'd been secretly gambling away the interest payments, thousands of dollars every month that should have been mine. But here's the part that made my blood boil. The marriage arrangement wasn't about her debts at all. Victoria had been trying to access the $50 million principal, and marrying me off to Ethan was her twisted plan to get her hands on the main inheritance. She thought if I became his wife, she could manipulate the situation and claim the money as family. Just as Ethan finished explaining this nightmare, we heard the front door slam open. Victoria had arrived, and she was furious. She stormed into the room like a woman possessed, screaming at Ethan about how he'd ruined everything and demanding to know why he was filling my head with lies. "She's my daughter," Victoria shrieked, pointing at me like I was her property. "I raised her. I sacrificed everything for her. That money should be mine." The mask had finally slipped completely. This wasn't about protecting me or securing my future. It was about greed. Pure and simple. She'd kept me poor and desperate my entire life so I'd be grateful for whatever scraps she threw my way, never knowing I was actually rich. Ethan's response was ice cold. "You kept her from her inheritance and tried to sell her to me like cattle. You're not a mother. You're a thief." That's when something inside me snapped. For 22 years, I'd been the grateful daughter, the one who never complained, who worked extra shifts to help pay bills that were never real problems. I stood up and looked my mother in the eye. "You let me eat ramen noodles for dinner while there was $50 million with my name on it," I said, my voice shaking with rage. "You watched me work myself to exhaustion trying to help us survive when we were never poor to begin with. And then you tried to sell me like I was nothing." Victoria's face crumpled, but not with remorse, with panic. She could see her world falling apart. That's when Ethan delivered the final blow. He pulled out a thick folder of legal documents. "I've been building a case against you for years, Victoria. Fraud, embezzlement, theft of trust fund assets. The FBI has been investigating your gambling activities and the missing money." As if on cue, there was a knock at the door. Police officers walked in with handcuffs, and Victoria's face went completely white. 20 years of lies, greed, and betrayal had finally caught up with her. "You can't do this to me," she screamed. As they led her away, "I'm her mother." But I felt nothing as I watched her go. A real mother would never have done what she did. 6 months later, I'm sitting in a Harvard Business School classroom, and I still can't believe this is my life. The girl who used to count pennies for bus fare is now learning to manage a business empire worth hundreds of millions. But the real treasure wasn't the money. It was finally learning who my father really was. Ethan kept everything David had left for me. Letters for every birthday I'd missed, videos he recorded before his death, even a recording of him singing me lullabies when I was a baby. My father wasn't the deadbeat Victoria described. He was a brilliant businessman who loved me so much that he made sure I'd be provided for, even if something happened to him. The most heartbreaking part, David had been planning to marry Victoria and make us a real family. He died in that car accident on his way to buy her an engagement ring. She could have had everything legitimately, but her greed and impatience destroyed any chance of that happy ending. Victoria got 15 years in federal prison. The judge said it was one of the most calculated cases of financial abuse she'd ever seen. Victoria had stolen over $2 million from my trust fund, not including the interest. All those years of "we can't afford it" while she was living off my inheritance. It still makes me sick. But here's the twist that still gives me chills. Ethan revealed that he never planned to pay Victoria a single penny. The marriage contract she was so excited about? Completely fake. He'd been setting up a sting operation for months, waiting for her to make a move that would give him legal grounds to expose everything. I knew she'd eventually try something desperate, he told me. I just needed her to commit a crime big enough that I could get you away from her legally. When she tried to sell you to me, she handed me everything I needed. Victoria's greed had led her straight into a trap. She thought she was so clever, manipulating everyone around her. But Ethan had been 10 steps ahead the entire time. He'd been protecting me, even when I didn't know I needed protection. Today, I'm not just rich, I'm free. Free from lies, free from manipulation, free from a woman who saw dollar signs when she looked at her own daughter. Ethan isn't just my guardian now, he's become the father figure I never had, teaching me about the business world my real father built. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if Victoria had just told me the truth from the beginning. We could have been happy together, really happy, not the fake happiness built on lies and stolen money. But greed poisoned her heart so completely that she chose to destroy our relationship rather than share what was rightfully mine. The saddest part, I would have given her anything she needed if she'd just been honest. Instead, she lost everything: her daughter, her freedom, and any chance at redemption. That's what greed does to people. It makes them throw away everything real for something that was never really theirs to begin with. I wish I could tell you this story has a perfect happy ending, but real life is messier than that. Victoria destroyed 22 years of what could have been a beautiful mother-daughter relationship because she couldn't resist the pull of easy money. She had a choice every single day to tell me the truth, to be honest about my inheritance, to build a real life together. Instead, she chose lies, manipulation, and ultimately tried to sell me like property. The woman who used to sing me lullabies became someone I couldn't even recognize. That's what greed does. It doesn't just destroy your bank account or your reputation. It destroys your soul, your relationships, everything that actually matters in life. Victoria could have had a daughter who loved her, respected her, and would have shared everything with her willingly. Instead, she's spending the next 15 years in a prison cell, completely alone. But here's what I've learned. Sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones you need protection from the most. Sometimes a stranger can show you more genuine care than the person who raised you. And sometimes love reaches you from beyond the grave through people like Ethan, who honored my father's memory by never giving up on me. If this story shocked you as much as it shocked me to live through it, hit that like button and let me know in the comments. Have you ever discovered that someone you trusted was lying to you about something huge? I read every single comment, and your stories matter to me. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on, because I have more unbelievable true stories coming your way. Stories about betrayal, karma, and justice. that will make you question everything you think you know about family and loyalty. Trust me when I say you won't want to miss what I'm sharing next. Some secrets are too explosive to keep hidden forever.